Ladies and gentlemen, they're talking about the return deals in UK.
Send back and we don't. Do you not think that's a weak agreement? We pay for them to go back. Do you think any government that's strong and really has the interests of our country at heart would accept such an agreement?
Well, I remember...
It's a surrender to France.
No, it's not.
It's the first time any other country, France or any other country, has agreed that there would be processing on their soil. Right?
Yeah, of course, because they decide who to send back.
No, because we would then be deciding who we take, okay?
You have no veto. Do you not know your own deal? The UK has no veto on who we take from France. That's the mad thing.
That is true, Barry.
Yeah. Come on, Barry, you should know that by now. We have no veto. Actually, we don't decide who we take back. We're just given, and of course they're going to give us the worst offenders, and they're going to take the best offenders from us.
What difference at this point does it make?
It's not even a deal. It's a farce. It's a headline.
Well,
it's another virtue signalling headline from the Labour Party who doesn't have the guts to leave the ECHR. Let's tell it how it is. You're going to tinker around the edges, and we're going to have illegal migrants who are stuck here, paid for by the taxpayer, who go on to sexually assault young girls, and who are terrible.
I believe they're paying millions, like 500 millions to France to pinch all the boats that go to UK. Fact. But since then, still people are arriving anyway. And once they arrive, UK has to pay to send them back. Who the heck made this deal on taxpayers' money as if, hey, that's a good deal?
Let's stop associating all illegal migrants with sexual assault on land.
How do you know?
Shall I tell you why?
How do you know?
Shall I tell you why?
How do you know?
Because rape crisis, actually the people who do take a very serious interest in this will tell you that 6 out of 7 rapes are actually committed by somebody within the family and somebody that is known to the person.
No one is denying.
So let's not pretend that all...
Look how angry you get to defend foreign migrants. I'd like to see that anger to defend foreign nationals. I mean, British people. So let me tell you, no one's denying.
What I'm angry about is the way in which you smear innocent people.
She was talking consistently direct. You were like, oh, come on, what do you mean, man?
Who go on to sexually assault young girls.
What did you say? Yeah, you get very angry. I know exactly what I have to say to push a button.
What I'm angry about is the way in which you smear innocent people.
Innocent? They are illegal migrants. They've entered our country illegally.
Yep.
You've decriminalized entering our country illegally. Let me tell you, no one's denying that we have homegrown sexual predators. Of course not. That's why we're the only party that's calling for stronger sentencing and stronger policing. But, Barry,
you're not the only
party
yes, we are.
No, there is a difference.
Total nonsense.
Criminals.
Don't even tell me it's not happening, because I believe even in UK once they were afraid to show you the statistic because you were afraid that certain people might be right and it might create certain hatred. And even if you don't want to believe me, look at this. This is The Guardian. Look at the deleted link. Azek police accused of hiding migrant crime data to avoid far-right claims. How can you claim somebody is not claiming something, and when you find proof it's happening, you delete the information? Remember to subscribe.
Barry,
you're not the only party
yes, we are.
it. No, you're
there is
not.
a difference.
Total
Foreign
nonsense.
criminals.
But you deleted it.
There is a difference.
Total
Foreign
nonsense.
criminals don't have to be here.
So who's shouting now?
Your party.
Who's shouting now, Leila?
Don't shut me up. Your party.
No, I'm just asking you the same question you asked me.
Your party is importing them, putting them in hotels, and calling anyone who complains and says enough as racist and divisive. That's exactly what's happening. So I'd like to see that anger that you just had when you defended foreign illegal migrants, criminals.
Just like that, he's defending illegal migrants. I would respect him if he also defended the British citizen. But he would never do it. Why? Because it might make him look bad.
So Denmark did a little scientific study with the 321 Palestinian asylum seekers they've let into their country. What they did was they basically just kept track of them and their children over the last 30 years. And out of those 321 original refugees, 204 of them have been convicted of a crime. That's 64%. 71 of them have been sent to jail. That's about 1 out of every 4. 176 of them are on government welfare. That's more than 50% of them.
And you can have consideration with people like that because maybe they come from a unique situation. But do the children integrate, adapt, and become part of the culture in a way that it would benefit?
Now the fun part is when we get to their 399 children. where 337 of them ended up convicted of a crime. That's 85%. 132 of them went to jail, and 372 of them out of 399 ended up on welfare. Now, let's just talk simple logistics. That isn't sustainable. That isn't a pathway for your country to succeed. Like, you're talking about a single group of refugees that in just 2 generations had a higher than 50% crime rate, a higher than 50% jailed rate, and nearly an 80% rate of being dependent upon the state to survive. Yeah, that's fucked.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't believe me and you can read Danish, here you go in the comment section. And also, if you want it in English, I also add it in the comment section.
Can you imagine any other group of people doing this? Imagine Korean people marching the streets, waving their flags, shouting how they want to annihilate an entire African country. Imagine Mexicans taking over universities for months on end, vandalizing buildings and making demands until they get their way. Imagine Buddhists harassing Sikhs wearing turbans in broad daylight. This would never happen or be allowed in any other circumstances. What makes Arabs and Muslims so fucking special that they can get away with it and are exempt from laws everyone else has to follow? One of the most spoken languages is Arabic, and the second largest religion is Islam, and the 5 strongest currencies are Arab states. Some of the wealthiest families in the world are Arab. They have colonized nearly all of the Middle East and North Africa. They are an imperialistic power in the East who is using the Palestine movement as a political tool against Israel, the only ethnic minority state standing in their way. And it's not just in the US, it's also all over Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can understand where she's coming from, because it doesn't make any sense. No other culture can go to your country, do so much damage because your country is not helping another country. If we really want to base everything what the country did in the past, you would be surprised that country that is so big right now, they did horrible things to be in power, especially based on their religion.
Conservative Party conference, I think sometimes one of the problems with our fringe events is that we all end up agreeing on the panel. So I want to start off by saying something that actually disagrees with something you said, Jemima. Because you said this isn't a one religion issue, this is a cross-religion issue. But actually, I think we need to be really honest with ourselves. The only reason we are talking about blasphemy today is because of Islam. Because there are some Muslims, not all Muslims, who want to have special protections for their religious beliefs. And there are lots of activist groups who are working very hard at the Labour Party to get them those protections. And I think that's wrong in a free society. And I think the reason we are even discussing it is because with some of those activists, there is obviously political menace for the government because the Labour Party is now confronted with the rise of the independent Gaza candidates who are now increasingly trying to organise as a political party. But there's also an underlying threat of violence, and there's a sense of fear. And we see that with the teacher from Batley who remains in hiding, the boys in Wakefield who were threatened with their lives after a Quran was scuffed. And we see it with the prosecutions of the 2 people who have desecrated Qurans in public as an act of protest. And this is obviously related to the sort of broader extremism that we worry about with Islamism in our society, which is also connected to the act of terrorism that we saw half an hour up the road in the synagogue in Manchester last week. And I don't think we do ourselves any favours by pretending that that's not the case. Now, emphatically, this is not about all Muslims, it is not about Islam itself. When we talk about Islamism is different to Islam, but there is no point pretending that Islamism is not of Islam.
If somebody is defending Christianity in a unique way that I disagree with, I can't say they're not part of Christianity, because I know that representing something in a totally different way, the wrongful way, that it was never meant to be that, but they can justify saying that.
Okay, that makes sense.
It would not be justified the same way. That's my point. I'm not calling out people from Islam. I'm calling out there is a radicalness about it, and politicians are using this radicalness to justify their action they're going to take. I can't get this done. I'm doing it for Islam. That's how politicians think sometimes.
So that Islamism is not of Islam. And we need to be able to discuss these things. So you sometimes see people justifying acts of violence or harsh punishments against people who blaspheme or become apostates or whatever, referring to the Sunnah, the body of Islamic law. And there are hadiths that are quoted to justify acts of violence, so-called sayings of Muhammad. There's one that says, the gates of paradise are under the shadows of the swords. Another says that Muhammad said, the hour will not be established until you fight with the Jews, and the stone behind which a Jew will be hiding will say, O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me, so kill him. Now, those hadiths are sometimes of dubious origin, and lots of Muslim scholars say they are not accurate. But we need to be able to discuss these things because they are used as justification for violence and for the kind of intimidation that leads people who in any other context would defend our freedoms, would defend our freedom of expression, to say that we should accept something that amounts to a blasphemy law.
Whenever you create a law, people will try to abuse it. It happens with all the laws, and that's why they call it loophole. And once you justify that, you can just change a freaking culture because somebody can disagree with you. That's blasphemous. Change your ways. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Since when do we protect the person that is a bully, that was allowed to come, and now they can tell me how I need to think? And I'm the blasphemous one that opened my door.
Let me see if I've got this right. The UK gave citizenship to a man whose name literally translates to jihadi from Syria. After receiving that gift from the British people, he was arrested for rape. A British judge thought it was appropriate to give him bail and let him back out on the streets. While on bail, he slaughtered Jews at a synagogue on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. I'm done. I'm done with the euphemisms, I'm done with the crocodile tears, I'm done with the calls for unity, I'm done being told not to hate, and I'm done skirting around uncomfortable truths. So let's list them. Uncomfortable truth 1. Multiculturalism hasn't merely failed, it has embedded sectarian violence on the streets of the UK and cost countless lives, most recently the lives of Adrian Daubly and Melvin Kravitz in Manchester. Again, strength and love to their families. Uncomfortable truth 2, diversity is not our strength, it has never been our strength, and in fact it has now become our greatest weakness economically and culturally. And I'm yet to hear any coherent argument for its value that doesn't default to, well, we get good restaurants out of it, which isn't good enough justification for complete cultural and social fracture. And besides, we've got the recipes now anyway.
I mean, many of the other countries back in the day, they didn't have a lot of issue, but because they got radicalized and it changed so much, now we have a totally different problem that suddenly Western countries needs to fix. I find that interesting.
Uncomfortable truth 3. Islamism is a cancer on the UK.
I would not call it that, but I can understand that might be a specific pocket in the culture that a lot of people don't dare to call out. That is changing the policies of the country at the level. I'm not surprised they might call it that.
And more citizens will die as a result of appeasing it. We need to say these uncomfortable truths loudly, and whilst we still can. Islamophobia laws are coming, ladies and gentlemen, as the great Christopher Hitchens predicted 16 years ago.
Is very urgent business, ladies and gentlemen, I beseech you. Resist it while you still can, and before the right to complain is taken away from you, which will be the next thing. You will be told you can't complain because you're Islamophobic. The term is already being introduced into the culture as if it was an accusation of race hatred, for example, or bigotry, whereas it's only the objection to the preachings of a very extreme and absolutist religion. Watch out for these symptoms. They are just symptoms of surrender.
Very old clip. May he rest in peace. I don't know, man. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I do see a pattern that I don't want to happen if I'm opening my door so you can feel safe in my country that I'm paying taxes.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde, kush hash, purple skunk, criollo, colombici, jam jam, dur loqueta, verdetta, welcome.